Allie Edwards, and welcome back to, let's see, what month are we on here in Project Life? March for 2019. I am here in my office today and ready to tackle telling some stories for March in Project Life. And just a reminder here, for 2019, I am doing Project Life in a 9x12 album, and I am approaching it monthly, which is a big departure from how I've done it in past years. I was actually just looking back here. This is the first half of 2018, and it's almost, the first half's almost done. I think I have just a couple weeks left, and then I have the second half over on another shelf, which has some weeks done here and there, some photos added in here and there, but it's not done. And I'm totally fine with that. I go in and add in the stories and the rest of the pictures as I have time. But that's how I did it for the last, 10 years. And so this has been a good way to switch it up for me. The way that I am tackling this most months is that I am going into my photo library and I am just basically looking at what happened in March, and are there some overarching themes that I can see? Are there specific stories that I want to focus on, or whether they're kind of a little or a big one? And as I was looking at my pictures for March, what really stuck out to me was travel. So Aaron and I went on a quick trip to San Francisco to see Hamilton, and then we had the kids for spring break this year, and so we did a big spring break trip to Hawaii. I don't feel the need at all to do a separate Hawaii album. This was a trip where we literally went and stayed at the hotel the whole time and swam in the pool and the lagoon and the ocean, and that was it. We didn't go around, we didn't see different things there. This was just a go to the beach kind of vacation, which was great, and that was exactly what we wanted. And in that way, the story that I want to tell about that vacation is just more of getting away and having fun together, and how much I like traveling with older kids. Those are the kinds of things that I am going to be telling, excuse me, compared to documenting, we went here today, we did this, we saw this. Pretty much we saw the ocean every day, which was awesome. And you'll see some of the pictures that I have pulled out from that, that adventure as well. And we were there for 7 days, so there's quite a few pictures, but I didn't take a ton. I say quite a few. I took probably a lot less than a lot of people would take, knowing that I'm mainly probably just going to flow it into a spread into this Project Life album. And you can see here that I've already cut up a bunch of 3x3 photos. What I loved most about this trip is that I was able to get some group shots of all of us together. We traveled with some friends, and so my friend Kim took some shots. We did a selfie, of course, because we like to do 7-person selfies. That's a kind of a fun challenge. And then I have a big 9x12 enlarged photo of the girls in the ocean. So my plan, at least right now, is to, I think I'm going to journal in a white pen just on top of here and do something really fun, maybe add some embellishments. I was looking at, I did an order from scrapbook.com recently where I got some of these, there's some American crafts and some crepe paper stickers that I thought were really fun. So these may be, I may incorporate this into this project and I may not. We'll see how it ends up going, or into this month. I also have the March Stories by the Month here. If you're a subscriber to the Stories by the Month kit, that is a kit that focuses on monthly themes, or excuse me, the calendar by the month. So March, April, May, and things that go along with each one of those months, very general, of course. So we've got things like March stories, rain, things like that. And this one, that is not available to purchase any longer, but you can sign up and get on if you're wanting ones for the future. So we have like the April one is available right now. The May one will be available soon as well. So for this time, what I'm thinking about doing, you can see I have a bunch of 3x4 pictures here. I have the back of February, which this is the back. The back was, I ended up telling a story about the snow. I really am liking this kind of format, which is similar to what I did here's January. Let's just do a little recap. I think that's fine. Here's January. So I had photos, and then I had my big journaling there in the middle. I had an enlarged photo here, and then I had a bunch of 3x4 cards with January details and had everybody fill out what they were into. In February, then I told 3 separate stories. One is pictures of my feet in different places. The journaling here links to the numbers over there. Story about going to Disneyland. I did another project about this for another class. This is a digital brush that I added on there. So I've got, again, these big photo enlargements. I'm also noticing the sky too, right? We've got the blue sky, whether it's at night or during the day there. The white from the snow with the insert, and then moving into March here, I pulled out a couple things. I've got the March details one. I'm considering using that, maybe. And then I have a couple random pictures that I picked up. Some are from our trip, so I may actually end up adding these in via an insert. And coming over to my stuff back there, we do have some new 3x8 inserts. I think that these were new. I don't remember which recent release, but these ones have a two pocket 3x4, so that might work good for adding in a couple more pictures related to the trip. So I'm going to leave that one there. I am also adding, this is an envelope from a travel collection that we released last year. We'll have a new travel collection coming up within the next couple of months. I am going to use it in this album. It's a great place to hold. Like, I have the program from Hamilton. If you've never seen Hamilton and you have the opportunity to go, I highly, highly recommend it. That was my second time seeing it. First time for Erin. It was fantastic. So I'm going to punch holes for that to go in there. And then I think that I will probably use this here and maybe end up with kind of 3 stories again. Maybe this first March page is just some random things about March, or some random pieces, the more random everyday life kinds of photos. I'm saying random, I don't mean that in a negative connotation at all. It's just things that are not related to these 2 trips, which were going to be my focus over here. So I could definitely stick, oops, I still didn't get one that had the, here we go. So I can add these 2 in there. Part of the story of that particular adventure was we got stuck. We got stuck overnight with a flight canceled out of San Francisco, and then we had a 9-hour layover. It wasn't a layover. It was a 9-hour delay in San Francisco, which was not good. We were not fans about that. For maintenance. That's what it was. So anyway, long story there for that. So I'm thinking I will add these in there. Maybe I'll add a couple of them. I could always add a 6x8 in here as well. I kind of like the idea that I would add in, let's see, how would I make it? I think they have to go in the middle with this. So let me see. I'll play around with it a little bit. It may work out better to add in a 6x8. Let's see what we have. I have a 4-pocket 6x8. The 2 pockets, which is this one? There's a 6x8 with the one on the bottom. That might. So anyway, I'm pulling out a couple of those, and I will deal with that as well. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go back to my computer, since now I've kind of established I have these 3 main story areas, and see if I have other pictures to add or anything else I want to add to kind of the everyday life of March. It might be a picture of some flowers blooming. We had story camp in March, which that's this picture. I'm getting ready for that. I'm going to trim those too. So I'm going to go ahead and go take care of those pieces, get some more pictures for this, and then I will hop back on here with progress. Okay, so I did a couple things there. You saw me just add in the piece from the map. I'll recycle the rest of that. Added in the 6x8 instead of the 3x8 with the 2 pockets. That made sense. I enlarged one of my photos here that had where I had added the delay on that. In the case of one like this, I am using the stories feature on Instagram to be able to copy and paste or, you know, add things on there. And then when I go to print it out, I can print it as a 3x4, I can print it as a 4x6. I have lots of options because it comes up on my computer there. So I'm just gonna leave that. I think that's perfect explanation of that. So a couple other things, let's see, kind of have the photos that I'm intending to use here. I haven't slipped those guys in yet. I want to add this in here, and I think I'm going to do it centered. So I'm going to pull out one of these 9x12 page protectors here. Actually, let's leave that out. When I cut this, I use a power, when I punch the holes here, I use a power punch. Looks something like this. And you can just punch straight through plastic with it, which is great. I'm just going to punch the flap inside there as well. I don't have any intention of you know, opening it up necessarily anytime soon, so I think that's fine, and you can pull it out of there if you need to be able to access the playbill. I think it's just a nice way to store a couple of things that you may want to have in your album. Becky Higgins for Project Life also makes pockets that you can use, but if you subscribe to any of my story kits, or if you get the or purchase any of the kit projects like this travel kit last year, they come in pockets like this, and this is a great use for those especially related to travel, like to use them. So there's a pocket that just has a few little things. There was like a card from the hotel, and then the playbill, and then our Hamilton tickets there. So we're going to stick that right inside there. And then here, let's see, I think I'm just going to stick this inside here. This is just going to be for March. This was the card that came with the kit. And now basically what I need to do is decide, how do I want to tell the story of these photos that I've included here? Some months, as you've seen, I have used an insert to write a little bit more about it. I don't feel like I want to do that. I feel more like I might want to add some stickers on there, some opportunity for just a little bit of journaling that isn't really a ton. So I think I'll wait on that, and I'll look through my products here in a minute and see what label stickers I might have to add on there. The other things that I'm going to be doing, finishing up here, figuring out, do I want to add anything on here? Again, I'm probably going to use a white pen, one of the Posca paint pens, to do this portion. And I think probably what I will do is turn off the forward-facing camera and just use the top-down camera, and then I'll do a voiceover so you can just kind of see how this all ends up. I also had a couple other things from this trip. Again, I'm not going to do a separate album for this, but I was kind of thinking that like this marketing piece from the Hilton might be fun to add in there. We have 2 of them because when you have 7 people, you have to have 2 rooms. So maybe I'll just punch holes in this and we'll see what that looks like. Just another little bit of kind of a real life edition, so that it's not just product all the time. Let's see, and it's something that's outside of a page protector, which I think is nice too from time to time to have some of that kind of stuff. I do that more in my 6x8 project albums, not always in these larger albums. Let's see, I'll put it probably down the bottom there. That should be okay sticking in there. And that just has like what room we were in. The other thing that I have from this trip that I might want to add in here is we went to one of those places where they cook in front of you, and you know, they go around and they take pictures, and then do you want to buy the pictures? And I did buy the pictures. I don't always buy the pictures, but I'm thinking that this would be a good one just to include in here also, maybe on the top, maybe in the middle. I think right there would probably be a good addition, just, you know, outside of a page protector. And I'm going to do that by, let's see this one, just adhering these front to back. Let me get on that paper. So So yeah, just literally creating a page by adhering photos back to back is something that I also do in a lot of the projects. So let's go back in, and I think I'm going to do this right in the middle. Again, for me, that opportunity to have lots of pictures of all of us together, whether or not everybody's smiling, whether or not everybody's doing, you know, what my ideal image would be. I so embrace them now. I just am so happy to have anything that has everybody in it. And I think especially for us, you know, that our family came together later on, you know, we don't have pictures of all of us together when everybody was little. So I definitely enjoy the opportunity to get those now. I'm thinking just something like this. So the couple pieces that will just be inside here. Almost always when I have an insert like that, I will put an index tab on the outside edge. Probably won't on this guy, but I will on this photo here. So one of the things that I'm really enjoying this year about doing it monthly is this idea of an ongoing project that has that's something to work on it. There's working on it once a month, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm liking that I do feel like there is some cohesion in it overall. It's different than how I did it before, which I'm totally, you know, open to having it be different. And so it's kind of fun to just be given that opportunity to play around with that. So, all right, so what I'm gonna do is just move to the straight down camera and start finishing up the process of figuring out how I'm gonna embellish, how I'm gonna get some words in here, and we'll go from there. Okay, so once I kind of have my plan generally in place, and for me that often means having my photos where I want them, then I start the process of journaling and or embellishing. Sometimes I start with the journaling first. I call that start with story. In the case of this spread or this project this time, I didn't do that. So this time I relied mainly on the photos first, and then I'm going to go back in and fill in some of the things. Often when I'm working through something like this where I'm working kind of on 3 separate stories, I usually tackle them one at a time. This one I moved back and forth a little bit. I was pulling some chipboard pieces from the March stories by the month. I was pulling some from the travel release. That big rubber geotag there was from last year's travel collection, and I put a sticker on there at first which I think said go. That was also from the travel release last year, or it said something else, and then I found a chipboard piece that said go, and I think that one was from the March stories by the month, but I decided to add that on there instead. Next up, I wanted to add journaling onto one of the 3x4 cards from the March Stories by the Month kit, and you can see that I'm adding it right onto there. It's one that has space already set aside. You can use it just as a cool pattern, or you can actually add your journaling right into the spaces there. I found it to be really fun to make my words fit into those uneven shapes there. I did a combo of uppercase and lowercase, and obviously this is not like super thought out writing because I'm writing it right in there. It's basically just an overview of this month. Again, the idea that I was mainly focused on work and travel for the month. So this part of my project here is kind of setting the stage for the stories that I will tell over the next couple of pages. From there, I knew that I did want to add something to those photos, and I ended up using label stickers, adding label stickers on each one. I kind of looked through my products to see if there was anything else I wanted to add, but adding label stickers and these specific label stickers it's one of my favorite things to do, and we have a couple different options of those available in the shop in a few different colors, and I've linked them for you below. I like to add them on just like I'm doing right here. I did this in Project Life for years. I've added them on in different places, but I think that they work particularly well on photos. You can have them go off the edge, which is what I like to do, and that's what you can see that I'm doing there, where I'm cutting a portion of them off. Sometimes I'll do half of the shape on there so that I can add the other half onto another photo. That's something else that you can do to make the product go a little bit farther, but I'm just cutting off a small portion and then throwing those pieces away so they're not getting reused, but sometimes I do look for opportunities to reuse. So playing with some of the different shapes, just trying to add a couple of each one onto those photos in this first section, right? Again, remembering that I did 3 sections and I'm treating them, I like to, or what I found that's worked for me is treating each one individually, right? And each one getting its own design treatment. It blends a little bit, as you'll see here in a couple of minutes, but for the most part, each one's kind of getting its own treatment. So then I ended up adding on a little bit more detail about what was happening in each particular photo. And then I also added on a chipboard star. Those yellow chipboard stars were an add-on option for the design story kit, and depending on when you're watching this, I think I'm going to get it out in time that is still available. So if you wanted to start a subscription to the story kit, which is different than Stories by the Month, if you want to start a subscription, you can have access to those yellow chipboard stars, which are definitely one of my favorites there as well. So doing a little bit of underlining, just again, writing really basic information on there and then adding a chipboard star to each one of them. Repetition always works for me when I am choosing design stuff like this. It simplifies things. It makes it cohesive. I'm not having to reinvent the wheel for each picture. I'm also not looking through all of my supplies over and over again to find the perfect sentiment to add to my picture, which I think is something that can hold people up sometimes. Rather than doing that, I am picking something universal and then applying that to each one of my photos here. So that's something to think about as well in your own process, something that could probably speed it up for you if you find yourself getting stuck in that place of looking for the perfect chipboard or looking for the perfect word phrase sticker. Giving yourself a little bit more flexibility and or constraint depending on which direction you are particularly coming from. So I really like how that one turned out. One thing you might notice is I didn't add the March stories card to this one, which I've done the last couple of months. I think that's okay. I could always even just slip it into that pocket there with the Hamilton stuff. I could throw it right in there, and that could also be a good holding place for that as well. So then I moved on to the next section here, which is the beginning of the San Francisco section. I pulled out my white Posca paint pens, and I really wanted to write morning and evening. It was really more like afternoon and evening, but it's good enough, from our hotel room. I think that's a fun idea when you go somewhere to take a photo of the view out of your room at different times of day, where you're going to get different lighting, different things popping up with those landscape shots. I did cut up the map. I think you guys might have seen this in the video, or you may not have. We just had a small little map that came from the hotel. I added another one of the label stickers, so that's where you can see a little bit of consistency, design consistency from that first story that I was telling, blending into the second story. Just adding a little more detail onto that label sticker, and then I'm going to call that section good as well. I think it's nice to remember that you don't have to over embellish if you don't want to. And then you can also over embellish if you want to. And I think for me, different projects, different stories. In my Hello Story 2 workshop that just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, I did some traditional layouts in there that had tons of stuff going on in them. And for me, I think that's a place where I tend to incorporate more and play more. Whereas for me, project life tends to be more straightforward documentation, and I'm totally fine with that too. I mean, that's just been a piece of what I have liked about it for a long time. So I'm using the travel phrase stickers, travel phrase stamps to slip inside the Avery Index tab there. If you've watched any of my videos about that kind of stuff before, adding inserts, I almost always add an Avery Index tab on there. So one thing that I did is I reprinted that large photo of Erin and I added the journaling directly onto the photo. The journaling comes from a Instagram post that I did when we went on this trip, talking about how this was a surprise for Aaron and how I wanted to take him to see Hamilton. So then I just expanded on that story a little bit, added a little bit more journaling, and then I wrote with the Posca paint pen, "Love traveling with you," on the bottom there. I also ended up adding one chipboard circle piece right into the space between us there, and then I wanted to let that dry before I put it back in the page protector. For the other 9x12 photo here, this one from spring break, I used the spring break chipboard to go right kind of in the middle of that, the picture of the girls on the beach, and then I wanted to use the white paint pen again to add a little bit of an intro into the story that I was going to tell about Hawaii. And I kept it constrained into a fairly narrow journal block. I like that look on top of there. I could have filled that whole space in. It could have been to the right, to the left, but I decided to just have it come straight down the middle where it's right in between the two girls on their floaties there, which was, we brought those from Target, and that was a totally fun thing to bring because they have all these stores in Hawaii called ABC stores, and they would blow it up for you for a couple dollars. That was awesome. So the girls loved having those there. Underlining after the fact. Let's see, what else do we have going on here? And then I'm going to let that one and make sure that dries as well before I put it back into the page protector, wanting to make sure. Those white paint pens, they do a really good job, and it doesn't take them very long to dry, but it kind of depends on how much ink comes out of the pen when you're working with it. So it's something to be mindful of as you're going about that process. So on top of the photos here of us at this Japanese restaurant for Isaac's birthday, I wanted to play around with these large puffy stickers that are from Crate Paper, and they're super cute and fun, and I ordered them from scrapbook.com, and I've got the link down below for you. Just a little, something different, something else to add in. I just thought those were really a cute product, and used the travel phrase stickers again to add sentiment into the Avery, add a sentiment or a title into the Avery index tab as a little tabbed spot there. And I decided, so there's two pictures of us at this dinner, and so I wanted to add both of them so that you saw me already glue those back to back. And so I just picked out another puffy sticker from that same Crate Paper set and added that right on top of there. And I felt like that was kind of a fun way to play around with those. So next up, in the last piece of the process of putting together this project, was to work with these 3x3 photos and figure out kind of where did I want them to go, and then what kind of journaling did I want to do. I knew that I wanted to write a little bit more about this trip and kind of some of the highlights from the trip. And what I'm doing right now is I'm sticking the photos inside. I'm also adding 3 chipboard pieces. I decided that 3 was the amount that I wanted to add onto there, that not every photo needed to have a chipboard piece. So I added those on there, and then kind of anticipated, or was initially thinking that I was going to have journal cards, some 3x3 journal cards, go right across the middle. I pulled out a sticker sheet, a travel sticker sheet that says Adventure 1, Adventure 2, Adventure 3 down the side there. Those stickers are still available as a bundle under the travel collection. And I'm going to cut them up, and you'll see that here in a minute. So right now what I'm doing is cutting up 3x3 white cardstock journaling cards that I'll be able to add just a little bit more of the story, and kind of breaking it down again into 3 sections or 3 adventures. Underneath the Love Traveling With You that I wrote on that enlargement of Aaron and I also wrote a little bit of something extra in black pen, and it says something like, "Where are we going next?" or something like that. I liked the addition of a little bit of black to go along with the white paint pen. I also added in that Hilton, the thing that held our key cards, and so I added an Avery index tab to that as well. I just feel like every time I put an insert in, I want to add one of those. It just makes it easy to turn those pages, and it really shows you that there is something to turn there that is a page in and of itself. So again, I'm coming back to those travel phrases stamp set to be able to add sentiments on there that make sense with the story that I'm telling here. Let's see. I did have 2 of those. I decided just to add 1. I felt like that was enough. I could have added 2, but I just didn't feel like it mattered that much. So back to the journaling things. Here you can see I'm taking those adventure stickers and I'm cutting the majority of them off because what I wanted them for was to just be a little title. And I liked the idea of having a little title at the bottom, or, some sort of cohesive design treatment on each one of these, knowing that I was probably going to handwrite my journaling on each one. So I like the idea of having that be along the bottom there. And let's see, what else did I have happening here? One of the questions I think that people will probably ask is just the whole, the question of what if you have so much more of the story? And there are definitely times when I do and times when I don't. And for me, I'm just pulling some puffy stars off that same puffy sticker sheet from Crate Paper. Sometimes for trips, for documenting travel, sometimes I have really, trips where we went and we took tons of pictures and we saw lots of things. And in this case, like I mentioned earlier, we just went to the beach, and we went to the pool. And so that's really what we did every day. I could have written a little bit more about reading 3 books and that kind of thing. But what I wanted to focus on from this trip was that it was Isaac's birthday, that it was so good to get away from the rain of the Northwest, that I love traveling all together, and that I love the opportunity to get these pictures of all of us together as well. So I'm just going ahead and writing those things down. Like I think the first one's about how we really did nothing besides either the biggest choice we made each day was, are we going to the pool or the lagoon? We were staying at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, and they have a lagoon there too, in addition to just the beachfront, which was great, especially for us where we knew that we just wanted to stay there. Like that was what kind of trip we were planning on. I had a mix up with my video, and so the rest of it I didn't get recorded, which happens from time to time where I thought it was recording. So what you're going to see next is just a overview of what this spread or this part ended up looking like. And I moved some things around. I wanted to have Adventure 1, Adventure 2, and Adventure 3 spread out rather than having them all together. So I moved some things around, and I wanted to have each of those chipboard pieces be on a different day, or excuse me, on a different line there. So here's just a recap look at how it all ended up. Again, this is March, my Project Life album. Loved using the big 3x3 page protector, or the 3x3 pocket page protector for lots of photos combined with the journaling. And then I will use that as the jumping off point for next month. Let me know if you have any questions below.